You ever notice how your day seems to go off the rails, almost before it even begins? You wake up already behind, already bracing, already planning every moment to keep control. But by mid-morning, it's unraveling. That tension. It started the second you opened your eyes. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't life's chaos. It was your expectations. You open your eyes and immediately start scripting the day. Not consciously, not with a pen in hand, but with thoughts. You imagine who should reply to your messages, how your meeting should go, what traffic should look like. You create a timeline of shoulds before you even get out of bed. And then the world doesn't comply. The train is late. A friend cancels plans. Your body feels tired, not ready to perform. That one email throws off your rhythm. And suddenly, the story you wrote that morning starts to fall apart. And with it, your sense of control. You feel frustrated, not just because things are hard, but because they're not what you expected. That's the trap, not the situation, not the actual event, but the clash between what is and what was imagined. Here's the tough truth. Most of your disappointment today won't come from reality. It will come from your expectations of it. You built an emotional structure on top of a house of cards, and now it's blowing over, one draft at a time. You didn't ask for too much from the day. You just asked for it in a very specific form. And when life handed you something else, maybe even something neutral, you felt the sting of contrast, like someone promised you something, then snatched it away. But no one promised anything. You just assumed it. Let that land for a moment. How many times has your mood crashed? Not because something bad happened, but because something different happened. Expectations are tricky like that. They sneak in wearing the costume of optimism. I'm just hoping for the best, you tell yourself. But there's a difference between hope and control. Hope floats, expectation grips, and when it grips too tightly, it snaps. Now think back to a recent moment, one that spiraled. Not a dramatic one, just a small moment. Maybe someone didn't say thank you. Maybe your body didn't feel energized. Maybe you planned something and it got canceled. In that moment, were you reacting to the event or to your broken script? Thought experiment. What if you could rewind that same day, but remove the expectations? No imagined outcomes? Just curiosity, just showing up. Would the moment feel different? Here's something to try today. The next time something doesn't go as planned, pause for just a few seconds. Don't rush to fix or adjust. Ask yourself, what story did I write about this ahead of time? And then, is that story the only one worth living? You're not being punished. You're just being asked to adapt. But if you walk into the day expecting perfection, you'll call every deviation a failure. You don't need to stop dreaming. You don't need to stop caring, but you do need to stop assuming. Control is intoxicating. It makes you feel strong. But here's the paradox. The more you need control, the more fragile your day becomes. One small shift, and your whole mood hinges on it. Imagine instead waking up without a plan for how everyone should behave, without a strict forecast for your energy, without deciding in advance how the world should treat you. Not empty, not numb, but open. That's what we're building toward. But first, you have to see how deeply you've tied your peace to prediction, how every assumption tightens your grip, how every should becomes a quiet little trap. So take this with you now. Expectations don't make you prepared. They make you vulnerable. Because when they don't land, they don't just leave, you feel rejected. Begin to loosen that grip. Begin to question the story. Begin to notice the way you try to control things by imagining the best-case scenario as if that guarantees safety. It doesn't. You can begin again, and this time, not with assumption, not with fantasy, but with attention. You wake up, and before your feet touch the floor, something inside you is already bracing. For what? You're not sure, but there's a tightness, a kind of invisible armor you slip into before the day even introduces itself. That armor is made of expectations, the ones you didn't say out loud, the ones you didn't even know you were carrying. You expect your partner to understand you without needing to ask. You expect your boss to recognize your effort without praise. You expect your body to wake up energized, your mind to focus immediately, your schedule to move without friction. And when it doesn't, you feel irritated, not in a loud way, in a low hum of disappointment that follows you around like a second shadow. You tell yourself to push through, get over it. But you never really questioned what you were reacting to. See, most days, your frustration isn't actually with what is. It's with what you expected before anything even happened. And that emotional tension, the kind that builds before breakfast, is heavier than you realize. You're not tired because the day is hard. You're tired because you're dragging every unspoken demand behind you, like emotional luggage with no handle. It shows up as urgency. You wake up already behind because the version of yourself you expected to be today doesn't match the one in the mirror. It shows up as disappointment. Someone else fails to meet a silent standard you never voiced, and now they've let you down, even though they didn't know the rules. It shows up as guilt, because you thought you'd feel more motivated, more clear, more loving, and when you don't, you decide you've failed. You haven't failed. You just started the day buried under invisible pressure. Pressure to be perfect, to meet outcomes, to deliver results. Pressure to manage how the whole world responds to you. Thought experiment. Take a breath, right now, not a deep one, a regular one. Let your shoulders drop. Notice how tight they were. That tension doesn't come from nowhere. It builds up, little by little. Every time you assume the day should feel different than it does. Now imagine waking up tomorrow and asking yourself a simple question. What am I expecting of myself today? Not what's on your calendar, not what your to-do list says, but what emotional standards are you holding yourself to? Are you expecting yourself to be endlessly patient, totally focused, constantly available, without question, without rest? Are you expecting your family or coworkers to meet your needs without conversation? Are you expecting the world to treat you fairly, consistently, gently, because you've tried so hard? There's nothing wrong with hope. But silent expectations become emotional contracts, ones you didn't sign consciously, but feel obligated to uphold. And when they're broken, you don't just feel surprised, you feel betrayed. Maybe this sounds familiar. You make a plan to feel calm today. That's your goal. But by 10 a.m., someone interrupts your focus. You get pulled into a problem that's not yours. And you feel your calm slipping. Now, instead of adjusting, you feel resentful because you thought you earned peace by planning for it. But peace isn't earned. It's chosen, again and again, in shifting conditions. You didn't fail. You just expected reality to reward you for your good intentions. And when it didn't, you blamed yourself, or worse, others. Here's a journaling prompt for this evening. Write down one moment today where your mood changed quickly. What did you expect to happen in that moment? Did someone act differently than you imagined? Did you? What was the silent contract, and who broke it? Awareness doesn't solve everything, but it softens things. It shows you the weight you were carrying so you can put some of it down. Because you deserve to walk into the day without emotional armor. You deserve to feel the air on your skin without always preparing for a storm. That weight you carry, most of it isn't yours. It's your idea of how things should be. And that can change. You're standing at the edge of a new day. And now, instead of trying to script every part of it, you ask a different question. What do I want to bring to this day, regardless of what it brings to me? That's the shift. That's where expectation loosens and intention takes root. It's subtle, but it changes everything. Intention doesn't predict. It doesn't demand. It doesn't assume things will go well. It simply decides how you will show up, even when they don't. Expectation is outcome-focused. It clings to results. How people behave, how events unfold, how you perform. Intention is value-focused. It anchors you in what matters most to you, no matter how the external world behaves. You move from control to choice. And choice, that's where your power actually lives. Instead of, this day should be easy, you choose, I will meet this day with patience. Instead of, I need people to agree with me, you choose, I will speak with clarity and respect, regardless of how I'm received. Instead of, I need to feel confident to do this well, you choose, I will move with courage, even if confidence hasn't arrived yet. This isn't about lowering your standards. It's about reclaiming your attention. Because when you set expectations, your focus stays glued to things you can't control. But with intention, you bring it back home, to your posture, your presence, your purpose. Here's something small to try tomorrow morning. Before you check your phone, before the headlines and the emails and the notifications pull you into everyone else's world, sit up, feet on the floor, hands relaxed. Ask yourself, what do I want to embody today? Not what do I want to achieve, what do I want to embody? Kindness, steadiness, focus, curiosity? Let that be your intention. Maybe you know the day will be difficult. Maybe it's packed with meetings, or uncertainty, or emotional weight. That's exactly when intention matters most. Because when the external gets stormy, your internal compass becomes the only steady thing you have. There's a moment, a real moment when things go wrong, and you get to choose your next move. Someone interrupts your plan. You forget something important. Doubt creeps in. That's your moment to pause, breathe, and return to intention. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to remember. Imagine this. You're late for something important. Your mind is racing. You're blaming yourself. Then someone cuts you off in traffic. You grip the wheel. Your chest tightens. Everything in you is ready to lash out or collapse. Now, in that exact moment, you remember the intention you set. I move through challenges with grace. It doesn't erase the stress, but it reshapes the moment. You inhale, you release the blame, you take the next turn calmly. You arrive a few minutes late, but you arrive as yourself, not a version of you steamrolled by panic. That's not just resilience, that's self-trust in action. When you set an intention, you're not promising the day will go well. You're promising you'll stay connected to yourself, even if it doesn't. And here's what's beautiful. The more you live by intention, the less control you need. Because you begin to trust that you'll handle whatever comes, not because life is predictable, but because you are present. Let that sink in. You don't need life to be predictable when you are present. Thought experiment. Picture the version of you who no longer needs the day to go just right in order to feel grounded. What's different about them? How do they speak? How do they respond to conflict, to joy, to fatigue? That version of you isn't some unreachable ideal. It's simply a version of you who returns, again and again, to intention. So tomorrow, don't ask the day to deliver your peace. Bring it with you. The sun hasn't fully risen yet. The air is quiet. And for a brief moment, the world hasn't asked anything of you. This is your window. Not to prepare for battle, but to return to yourself. This is where intention lives, not in the middle of the day's chaos, but in the soft edges of the morning, before your brain gets pulled in 1,000 directions. And no, it doesn't have to look like a perfect, Pinterest-worthy ritual. You don't need to journal for an hour, meditate for 20 minutes, drink a green smoothie, and read a chapter of a self-help book. You just need to meet yourself with honesty. Let it be simple, let it be yours. The key is consistency, not for the sake of productivity, but for the sake of grounding. Start small. Maybe you sit on the edge of your bed for just 60 seconds. No phone, no news, just you and a question. What am I bringing into this day? Name one word, just one. Strength, grace, focus, stillness, play, whatever comes naturally. Let that word be your intention. Then breathe it in. Not metaphorically, literally. Inhale while you say it in your mind. Exhale while you imagine releasing everything else. This is how you begin the day, not by predicting, but by aligning. You're not forecasting your schedule. You're aligning your energy. And if you want to build a practice around it, here's one simple structure. Step 1. Ground your senses. Open the window and feel the air. Notice the light. Smell the coffee or tea. Hear the quiet. Before you jump into thoughts, connect with something real. This reminds your brain that you're not behind. You're simply here. Step 2. Name your intention. Write it. Speak it. Think it. Let it be clear. Not an outcome, a way of being. Something you can return to later, when the world gets noisy. Step 3. Set a micro-anchor. Choose one small action that helps you feel steady. Pouring your drink slowly, lighting a candle, stretching your arms above your head. It doesn't matter what it is. It just matters that you do it deliberately. This is the bridge from idea to embodiment. Now, imagine how your day begins to feel different. Not perfect, just different. Because now, when you feel yourself drifting, you have a thread to follow back. You don't chase calm, you return to it. Picture this scene. It's the middle of your workday. Things are piling up. The pace is quickening. You feel the urge to rush, to react, to abandon your center. But then, without even needing to stop, you touch your wrist, or take a single breath, or whisper your word under your breath. That's your morning intention resurfacing. Not as a rule, but as a quiet friend, tapping you on the shoulder, saying, "Remember who you are." That's the beauty of intention. It doesn't just live in the morning. It lives through you. But it needs a place to start. Journaling prompt for tomorrow morning. If I could only bring one thing to this day, regardless of what it brings to me, what would it be? Write the first word or phrase that appears. Let that be enough. You'll be tempted to complicate this, to add more, to optimize, but real presence doesn't need layers. It needs returning. And yes, some mornings you'll forget. You'll scroll instead. You'll skip the pause. That's okay. Don't turn intention into another standard to fail. Just pick it back up. The next breath, the next quiet moment, it's always there, waiting. Because morning isn't just a time of day, it's a way of meeting yourself. With clarity, with compassion, with choice. You're not here to master every morning. You're here to meet it, honestly, gently, intentionally. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, that's enough. The day didn't go how you thought it would. Something fell through. Someone said the wrong thing. Or maybe nothing dramatic happened at all. Just a slow unraveling of plans and energy and good intentions. You feel yourself tighten. That old urge rises, to fix, to blame, to retreat. But then you pause, and you remember. You didn't begin this day with a contract. You began it with an intention. And intention doesn't break when life bends. It bends with it. This is what you've been building toward. Not control, but capacity. Not for perfection, but for presence. It's here, right here, in the moment everything starts to slip. That intention shows its power. It doesn't stop the storm, but it reminds you that you can walk through it without losing yourself. This is where you shift from reaction to response. Here's the hard part. Life will not thank you for your intention. It won't reward you every time you center yourself. Sometimes it gets louder, more chaotic, less fair. And still, you return to what you meant to carry. That's where trust is born. Trust that even when your plans fall apart, you won't. Trust that even when things get messy, you don't need to match that mess with panic or blame. Trust that your worth isn't measured by how smoothly the day unfolds, but by how steadily you meet it. Let's bring this into something real. Imagine this. You're in the middle of a conversation that's starting to go off track. You feel misunderstood. You feel that pull to defend, to withdraw, to prove something. Now take a breath. Remember the intention you set this morning. Maybe it was clarity. Maybe it was gentleness. Maybe it was staying grounded. You don't abandon yourself to win the moment. You stay with yourself to carry it differently. That's power, quiet, centered, grounded power. Another example. You've had 5 things go wrong in a row. Your shoulders are tight. You feel behind. Instead of spiraling into self-blame or rushing into overdrive, you pause. You speak to yourself, not with blame, but with kindness. You say, "This isn't how I planned it, but I'm still allowed to move slowly. I'm still allowed to start again." That's the voice of someone who leads themselves, not through control, but through intention. And when the day does bring you something beautiful, when someone shows up, when the timing works out, when you feel aligned, you receive it fully. Not because you expected it, but because you're open to it. That's the strange gift of releasing expectation. You become more available for joy, too. Because now, it surprises you. It delights you. It feels earned not because you demanded it, but because you noticed it. Here's your thought experiment. Picture a version of today where nothing goes your way. Plans fall apart. People miscommunicate. You're tired and messy and unsure. Now picture yourself moving through that version of the day. With grace, with patience, with humor, with intention. That's the person you're becoming. Not someone who avoids hard days. Someone who navigates them without turning on themselves. So here's what you carry now. A simple, quiet truth. You can begin again. At any point, in any moment, without punishment, without needing to fix everything first. Intention doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to remember, again and again, who you meant to be. And when you forget, you forgive. You return. You try again. Because the point isn't to control the day, it's to meet it, awake, aware, and willing to live it as it is. Some days will still begin with resistance. Some intentions will feel too soft, too small, too late. That's okay. This isn't a performance. It's a practice, a rhythm of returning, of softening the grip, of choosing to meet the unknown. Not with assumption, but with presence. You're allowed to be messy, to forget, to start over again and again. Because growth doesn't come from predicting the day, it comes from being with it. Fully, however it arrives. And you're doing that now, so breathe gently, soften your shoulders, and know you've already begun.